Hello and welcome to The Wave of Things. My name is Andres Avitier. As you can see, I'm very happy right now. It is because my friend Marta Raya, formerly from Montreal, released her first album Hidden Emotions also on vinyl. When I found out about this, I immediately ordered one, and if you're not familiar with it, it definitely should also belong to your collection. For today's talk, I invited a solo musician from Canada. Her name is XARAH Dion. She is from Montreal. In Montreal, she is for sure not an unknown one. She released some albums in the last years and also did some collaborations. But to me, her music was quite new. She was recommended to me by my band colleague Raymond Nelson. And as I don't know much about her, I have a lot of questions to ask her. Hello, I am here today with XARAH Dion from Quebec.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Andre.
Pleasure is all mine. Quebec, never been there, so it's French speaking, this I know. And there is a separatist movement also going on. Is this still a topic?
Well, the separatist movement is not as politically active as it was in the 80s and 90s. It's still a topic to discuss politics, but it's not really a movement as, you know, we have seen, for example, in Spain or other countries in Europe recently. And also one thing that's important to note about Quebec is it is a francophone province of Canada, but the city of Montreal is pretty much bilingual, so it's that's the kind of environment we evolve in here.
Your first language is French.
Yes.
Also, I presume, yeah. And all your songs, or at least those that I listened to, they had all French titles and French lyrics. Did you also make in other languages, like in English, for example?
In fact, I started more recently working on some lyrics in English. For me, it's a completely different universe. It brings different musical ideas as well, because French and English don't sound the same. They're not accentuated the same way. And so, yeah, I'm currently working on some titles with some English content, and my latest effort was a collaboration between my friend Saren and I did a cover of one of his tracks, which was purely techno, but I added some vocals on it, so it became kind of like a industrial wave sounding track, therefore.
Good. XARAH, how long are you in music actively?
I've been in Montreal actively playing music since 2005, and I was involved in various projects, whether it be some bands or some collaborative projects, more punctual. And I was also involved in an artistic loft space where many musicians from the Montreal scene would gather to either record or rehearse or put on shows. And so that's kind of my background as of more midterm. And it's only in the more recent years that I was interested in making purely electronic music, as I wanted to do a solo project, and it was a really good way to master all the aspects and be in my own universe on my own terms. And yeah, it's been a journey so far.
What are your influences in music?
My taste in music is vast. I like classical music to more traditional types of rock music, world music. But of course, when it comes to electronic music, there are sounds that I will turn to like inform myself and in a way like learn about how things can be done. But I think you can also hear in my music the influences that come from my background in classical music and my interest in world music, which I think is common a lot in like the electronic wave scene as well. A lot of people pull like influences from different music genres, and electronic music is a really good way to actually synthesize or even create some kind of a hybrid between genres. In the past like year or couple years, I've really turned myself to like more 80s industrial music, 80s wave music, and like early techno, because I work with a lot of analog gear as well, and gear that comes from that era. For me, it was like important to inform myself of the roots of the different waves of post-punk electronic music, might I say.
Do you have a favorite band amongst the old great wave bands or post-punk?
For me, it's hard to pick a favorite band. It would be easier for me to name some current bands that I've looked up to, that I've really been inspired by, or even aspired to sound a bit like them. For example, I really like what the Zanias has been doing. Really into the Human Performance Lab, more techno acts like Schwarze. There's also a lot of local artists that I'm really fond of, as Brusca Twins, Esepa, The Marquis, Auto Melody. Some of them I've had the chance to play with. Some of them I've just met here and there while being on tour. But it's also important for me to feel that I'm connecting with what people are doing in the current times, for sure.
When you record music, could you describe how this looks like? How do you start? Do you start with the lyrics, or with the song, with the melody in your head, or how do you do it?
For me, it always starts with the music, and it always starts with a framework, or kind of like a form, or an architecture, might I say, like a sequence, or an idea of a melody with an harmony. It's like it never comes as just an idea for a lyric or just a melody. It happens while I'm playing, actually. I get ideas really from playing with the material, and then once I started building, then I will reflect on it more when I'm not playing. But otherwise, I don't get those kinds of inspirations. It's really related to playing for me. And of course, writing is something separate. Writing words or lyrics for me is separate. It doesn't come with the music.
Yeah, this would be my next question. My French is not so good anymore. What are your lyrics about?
That's a good question, because even myself, I don't always know what my lyrics are about, and it's part of my process where I try to pull from the words and how they meddle together to pull an ambience or an atmosphere or various layers of these things. And even if some of my lyrics can relate directly to my personal experience, I could never say that they are like autobiographical or that they really like, yeah, they don't really tell a story in that way. Yes, for me, yeah, it's a process more than just an aesthetic of things. It's not just about like what it means, like as a result. It's also like a process. If it makes sense.
Good, XARAH. I would be through with my questions. Do you have anything to add? What was not said yet?
Well, I'm currently working on a new album. It's in some aspects it's quite different than my previous material. Some of the tracks are more progressive, have a more instrumental feel, less of like of a song feel. And there are also some tracks that are a bit more similar, like ABA song format. But yeah, I could say it has maybe a bit more like of a techno feel. It's things are maybe a bit more material, like you hear the material maybe a bit more. Anyways, I'll let the listener judge once the music is out.
So, XARAH, thank you very much for the talk.
Thank you for your time.
I wish you good luck with your musical work.
Likewise.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
XARAH was so kind to leave us 5 Bandcamp codes. And if you're fast enough to comment down below what's your favorite song on the album Fugitive, one of those codes will be yours. As always, thank you very much for watching. See you next time.